lovely people, this is Somebody, and welcome to a slightly different type of video. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do for 1.19 for the survival series, but before that, I guess I should I want to talk about, 1.19, and basically the problem that is not the update. Like the update, except for one feature that I already found while now playing it, like 1 or 2 days long, that I'm like, oh, they didn't really think that through. Generally, it's fine. Yes, it might really just be Caves and Cliffs Part 3, or the mild update, really. But generally, it's fine. It does things. But the problem here is a completely different one. Now, in one of his streams, Captain Sparkle said that basically, if you say that this update is just the finishing of Caves and Cliffs, then it's fine. If you're expecting anything else, then not. And yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem here. So, this is going to be the video on unkept promises and similar, or maybe inverse, screw-ups that Mojang have done in the past, that basically just keep on stacking. I wouldn't even say that all led up to this, but it's like they keep on stacking. There is more and more and more negative things that you can find that they are either not addressing correctly, or just keeping to make it worse for themselves. So basically, there is a long history of the player base not being properly communicated, like reasons for certain changes, or mixing of different reasons that do not match, that are counter to each other, and just, doing that. Like, sadly, that has been a thing for a long time. Now, sure, at the point where Mojang was just like 2 or 3 or 4 people writing some code. I mean, it started out being one person writing some code, and then another person joined, and then a few more people joined. Sure, there it could be that one person says something that is not to be taken as the official statement of the company, and then another person says something that fits also, but is pretty much the opposite of what the other person said. Then, yeah, that can be. And should that be more internally discussed? Maybe. But in the early days, you could possibly forgive that very much, because I don't think there would be any small game studio where this doesn't happen. But nowadays, they still do that, and that's the problem. Well, one of them. Now, an example here for, just weirdness, and basically Mojang just like going one step forward, 8 steps backwards, and then a leap forward, and then claim that they have gone further than they were before, and you can't really verify that because it's all complete different measurements. Is the combat system. And I want you to see the combat system here not as everything that kind of relates to combat, because then, I don't know, maybe even a waterloggable leaf and a frog and a bow with no arrows could be combat. No, I just want you to see combat as just attack delay. If just that is all there is to a combat system, which at the core is actually the thing. At the core, a combat system is just the attack delay. So basically, that one isn't bad to have. There are, basically all other games that have some sort of combat system have some sort of attack delay, charge up time, whatever. That's actually good. And the thing is, if they would have literally only changed that back in 1.8, 1.9 from just kind of what I would call a programmatic delay of, the process doesn't pick your clicks up faster, to what it is now, which I think is a better combat system in that sense, that wouldn't have been a problem. However, what Mojang did at the same time is introduce new buffs, changing around some of the attack stats and basically putting some really OP armor and tools in. And that's just versus the just simple change to attack. Like, they changed one small thing and then were like, okay, and now we like revamp everything else to 100, which made the complete package worse. Like, single changes would have been great. The whole thing, well, yeah, you can't really die any longer in a certain way as soon as you have all of these items that just didn't exist before, or like all of these enchantments that put the stats up further than they used to. Like, why having to wait half a second and not being not punished for not doing it? I know that was just a triple negative, but that is supposed to be there. Why does this change suddenly trigger you to change all the numbers and introduce really OP stuff? It makes no sense. And they did that. It's like, just like if you were to make pigs rideable, but in the same update add rideable horses. Why did you then change number 1 if change number 2 negates it and makes it completely pointless in the end, or even just worse? I wonder. But generally, some more problems than these things started after 1.10, because we all know nothing happened in 1.10. Well, I started playing Minecraft in 1.10, but other than that, nothing happened there. But okay, 1.11. So some of the main features that are nowadays ubiquitous in playing the game, that a lot of technical Minecraft players build farms around, that just didn't exist in 1.10, were added in 100% borked dot release. Yeah, like, basically the main features of 1.11, discounting the mansion, although also they had problems in the main release and then were supposedly fixed. Well, you couldn't play the version in which some of those problems were supposedly fixed, because it was just completely broken, and that was 1.11.1. They didn't just get, like, for the promised features, which was furnaces storing XP and firework rockets being able to propel you with elytra flight. Instead of bringing out 1.11 whenever they had to bring it out, apparently there was already a deadline there, and then putting out a patch to maybe fix some mentioned generation issues and put these features in that they couldn't put in, they made a dot release, a .1. Just to have the number go up, possibly. Maybe early Microsoft acquiring pains, because I mean, Microsoft does it with some of their products too, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, hey, studio that we are buying and stuff, hey, could you do it the same? I don't know, but thing is, these two features, the furnace and the elytra flight, didn't work in 1.11. The elytra flight just didn't work. Like, it's like, hey, you were supposed to implement this, and this is literally the feature you didn't implement. That's weird. And using a furnace at all crashed the game, with people on Windows often even experiencing a blue screen, while on Mac you would just have the Java VM crash. This is why I think macOS is the better operating system. But anyway, yeah, just 100% of the features that were supposed to be in the main release, that you added in a dot release with no reason for that to exist, didn't even work. Like, what are you doing? There, many people said, hey, okay, the game's dead now, because a rushed game is always bad, a delayed game is eventually good, and they clearly rushed out 1.11 because they didn't put two of the main really nice to have, and now you couldn't live without them features in. Then they came up with a dot release that didn't work, and so only hours or like one day afterwards they had to follow up with 1.11.2 because one just didn't work. And that's a problem. Now, if this was a isolated incident, yeah, okay, but yeah, we kind of got a lot of non-working releases and dot releases in the future. But anyway, let's go on one more version, to 1.12. Now, a feature that wasn't promised, but I'm really surprised that they didn't add it in, at least like by now, concrete slabs. I'm still waiting for those. Now sure, they were never promised, but at the time, Mojang was thoroughly anti-slab. Oh, poor Evo. So, going as far as to claiming that creative builders just weren't creative enough when it came to the usage of the currently existing blocks. Yes, Mojang did that. They were like, yeah, well, you like have a few slabs, and with those you now need to be able to make everything. And that was even before walls even kind of connected to all sides and would look like vertical slabs. Because nowadays walls kind of do look like vertical slabs. It's like, okay, fine, but back then they didn't even do that. So yeah, it was just like, yeah, we are not going to add new slabs, and if you can't build with the few you have, then you're clearly not creative enough. And it's like, whoa, who hurt you? Well, I guess your wrong decisions from 1.11 hurt you, and 1.10 and before, but okay. So, not a big issue, but it's just, you missed like things like concrete slabs. Just in our world, every sidewalk that exists in the world that isn't like a meter high is made out of concrete slabs. That's literally the technical term for these things. Like, they are concrete slabs that make up cities, and you don't have them in Minecraft, even though you added concrete. What? Well, just another nonsensical decision, right? No problem. Okay, so let's come to 1.13, where again the proper problems pick up. Communication with the community being, even though you would possibly think, oh, like 1.13, like Dinnerbone and Grum and so on were like tweeting all the time, like there was great communication. Actually, it wasn't that great. So point A, claiming that a removed feature was never there. Now, I believe Dinnerbone, Grum, and possibly another developer, I'm not entirely sure, so yeah, basically claimed when in Snapshot, this must have been 17W48A or 49A, somewhere between December 2017 and January 2018. In one of these snapshots, sticky pistons spitting out their block when receiving a 0 or 1 tick pulse was removed. Pretty quickly, the technical community was like, what the fuck is this? Put it back. And then one of the devs, I sadly can no longer find the tweets because I believe they were possibly deleted by the people who were proven wrong, but I did find one tweet mentioning Dinnerbone and one mentioning Grum, so I'm like, yeah, I guess those two possibly played a role in the whole thing. Basically, they claimed, oh, that was never really in the code, and we're currently just refactoring the code, and in our new code, this just doesn't happen. Well, when you make such a claim, you should kind of remember in your mind that all previous versions can be decompiled and are available through your own gateway, and that modders have had access to the code for just under a decade at that point, and that they know the code. Yeah. So really quickly, modders were like, no guys, there is specific code in this and this function that actually literally checks if the pulse is short enough and spits out the block. Like maybe back when like Dinnerbone started coding on Minecraft, maybe back then this wasn't a feature, but now it very much is in the code and you should put it back. And as soon as they were proven wrong, they put it back. But yeah, kind of didn't really say much more after that. And nowadays, you can't find any tweets by Graham from around that time. And also Dinnerbone's Twitter feed, although there are tweets from the time, if you scroll all the way down, at least I apparently ran into the wall of Twitter just stopping at January 2018 and not letting me go further. So you can no longer find the tweets, or they have all been deleted. But yeah, it's like they definitely tweeted a lot around about that time, and for that you find not a lot of tweets. So I guess they might have deleted the ones where they were thoroughly smacked in the back of the head by the modding community, going like, well, actually it's there. It's right there. You have removed it. And then the technical community going like, put it back! Yeah. So that was the thing, and that was just like, yeah, so really misguided tweets, you can be proven wrong in seconds. Why would you even think about then tweeting about this? Never mind your mental health, I'm just gonna say. And then, so that was point A, that was really stupid and disappointing and bad communication. Well, point B of that point being going back and forth on whether to split or not split the update. Now, originally, they were obviously only planning on really putting new water mechanics into the next version after 1.12 and not really changing too much. Then they kind of noticed, well, that's actually a big deal. We can't get this into the spaghetti code that we have. We have to do a lot of technical changes and improvements and basically just rewrite the whole damn thing. So at some point they said, yeah, okay, we are possibly going to split it. Yeah. And at the time, splitting the update would not have really been that big of a deal. Like, even though there was a bit of hype after 1.10, parts of 1.11 and 1.12, expectations were not that high really. I mean, yeah, sure, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, hey, this new water thing, but also most of the technical community said, well, actually, please don't change it as much as you want to, because it would break literally everything. And so it was pretty clear, okay, they can't really do too much there, so yeah, expectations weren't too high. They could have easily just split this update, and there were plans after the Minecon, where it was announced to like split it into a quotation technically better unquote update, which would have been 1.13, and the aquatic update, which then would have been 1.14. However, after reworking seemingly the bare minimum of content to make 1.13's new mechanic work, they again connected the two updates, and it seemed almost really rushed in the end to get 1.13 out. Cause like basically there like was a time where Dinnerbone, having possibly at least Twitter side kind of recovered from the mistake with the sticky pistons, was like tweeting out, hey, there is this feature that I have rewritten because it was complete garbage, and hey, I've made the camera better because apparently it was at your feet but transposed 5 times to be at your eye height. I've fixed that now, and all of these things. And that went on for a few weeks, and then suddenly these real deep technical changes in the snapshots just stopped, and the mechanics were put in. And back then, when like me experiencing this myself, seeing how this was going, I was like, huh, that's odd. That's weird. Why are they suddenly doing that? Well, I guess once again, just like with 1.11, there was a deadline that was not communicated to the outside, but they clearly had to get to, hey, have the game there. If it works or not, who cares? Yeah, it had abysmal server performance, but it can't be the devs who care about this, because there's only like a lot of hype coming from like old school type of SMPs at the time. Like no big deal, right? It's just like servers, like who is playing on servers in like this space year 2018, like whatever. So they pushed it out in single player. It was kind of playable, maybe. I mean, I was able to run it on my MacBook, but well, not amazing. And on servers, even with SMPs bringing in a lot of hype for the update, the deep end and so on, yeah, it just was really bad, and you needed so many like server different clients and plugins and whatnot for it to somehow work, that it was really sad. Okay, then came 1.14, an unplayable mess. And I could now not say more about it, because that's all you need to know, an unplayable mess. But that's actually where the current day issues begin, so I have to elaborate. Basically, after every update to 1.14, so every dot release, all entities in your world would vanish. Yes, with every of the dot releases, and there were 4 of them, to try to fix all the issues of 1.14 release being literally unplayable, just like 1.11.1. Yeah, sure, a fun speedrunning challenge of you can't use a furnace and stuff, but yeah, not that great. Now, the snapshots of 1.14 seem promising, but yeah, then came 1.14 and it was like, oh yeah, this whole thing of you not fully refactoring for 1.13 really is showing now, with possibly half old code, half new code, and none of the both halves is working. Like, it compiles. It compiles and starts most of the time, and that's it. That was literally 1.14 up until 0.4. And I believe then 0.4 possibly introduced one of these really bad server bugs that they had to fix in
an emergency server patch.
Yeah. And here the disconnect between the devs and the player base became quite visible, although also the communication got a tiny little bit better. So also the crafting changes that they introduced in 1.14 had problems. The original idea that the devs clearly had, which you could very much see from the snapshots, was splitting the crafting bench into 5 other tables and basically making the crafting table itself useless. Basically, if you did that, you could have just called it Minecraft 2.0 and it would have been fine. But as a 1. something release as the Minecraft that we know, that was not so popular. So, actually, in a really nice move, Mojang changed the idea for most of the blocks actually quite quickly during the snapshot phase, with gradual implementations over the snapshot. So clearly a plan B did exist, which is good for development. You should always have a plan B, C, D, and E. But clearly they at least had a plan B and gradually implemented the functionality for each of these blocks with the snapshots. Now the snapshots were also buggy messes at best of times. And often they would go like, hey, the grindstone now works. Just for people who tried out to get a blue screen because the grindstone kind of doesn't work. But then the next snapshot, the B snapshot, maybe even on the same day, fixed the problem. So it was actually a good development cycle in terms of that. But even after almost all things had been implemented and fixed, because I believe the first time they introduced barrels with the functionality, that also just crashed the game, but then in the C snapshot everything worked, something along those lines. So like everything came along. But then there was the end of snapshots, the pre-releases kept rolling around, and the smithing and fletching table still had no use. What gives? And the promise was, well, both of them will get their use in the next major themed update. Well, at this point in time, after having really bad communication, then having a bit better communication and even changing the ideas because of community feedback, we are however still waiting for two functionalities, the smithing table and the fletching table. Well, at least they are kind of functional blocks in the game as villager workstations. So that was 1.14, kind of in the development that 4 out of 5 to 6 versions were an unplayable mess. Let's put that to one side. They got there kind of eventually. We're not talking about servers here. We are literally talking about single player. Because servers were like at a really big risk in 1.14.4 because of a bug that they then fixed with, I think, only a server update. But I was like, you clearly have problems with your code base that you didn't get to fully change in 1.13. You should have split that one. But okay, 1.15. Now 1.15 fixed things. Not only, I guess, finally getting to properly fully revamp the code base, and I recently noticed you can even leash squids now, and that actually works, so they must have changed it at some point, because the squid code was historically bad, and I guess they made it better at some point. Could have been 1.15. I don't know. I just know that I recently leashed a squid and was like, wait, it works now? Nice. And also, this fixing of things happened with no attached lies to it. Isn't that great? Also, at that time, maybe between 1.15 and between 1.17, so I don't quite know when, but Mojang started hiring, in quotation points, new quote end people. Now, those are not just completely new people, those were community members with context and experiences from other sides, like some long-term modders of the game. And that was also a pretty good move. Now, publicly, 1.15 was not that well received after the last two big updates and players getting used to them just being unplayable and that being the new playable. Yeah, people expected another big unplayable update because, whatever, rubber banding in single player, we don't care. It's fine. Basically, that just became the new bar, and people just expected Mojang to have this bar that was now set really low in terms of playability, but really high in terms of new content, to kind of climb over that bar and fall face first into the sand, but at least they jumped over the bar, right? And then just them slithering under the bar and just making the game playable to some people seemed disappointing. However, I defended this update online, like for example, Jack Success Live's editor Kairos Best tweeted out at some point when 1.15 came out, like, what, they just added bees? And I answered him like, hey, no, they literally fixed the game. The game is playable again. They literally re-added Minecraft to Minecraft. That's what they did. It's a huge deal. It's amazing. They should have done it 2 updates ago, or 3, but they finally did it. And the bees are just a wonderful bonus that all of the people that are visual learners and want to see something what like actually changed get as a cherry on top. Yeah, this was a great update for the code base and for the playability of the game, but yeah, changed code doesn't work well on advertisement billboards, so you have to have some feature, and that was the bee. Yeah, but they wouldn't have needed that. Like, it just fixed the game. Well, there's a small side note that I should possibly make here. While that all that I just said is true for Java Edition, obviously it's not quite true for Bedrock. So while Java literally got the absolute needed update that it had to get, and also added slime blocks, honey blocks, which I didn't even talk about in that last segment, but okay, that was there too. For Bedrock players, as this user here pointed out, yeah, there wasn't really like anything important, and just that part got its own update kind of things. In Bedrock, with like 1.15 then just being basically nothing. And so yeah, so for Bedrock that was definitely a different story. But for Java, this was the needed thing that was needed. Yeah. Okay. Then came 1.16 and hey, they got the game making shit together. Yeah. So the thing is, community communication again dropped a little bit, with Pigstep being copyrighted music basically, and Mojang being quite silent over it. Now, obviously, some people might ask now, why is there no new C418 music in Minecraft? Well, C418 has the rights to all of his music, and he does allow people and content creators to use his music in their videos without them getting copyright claimed or striked or whatever. I will put a link to his Bandcamp in the description below if you want to buy any of the original Minecraft soundtrack from him. That would be great, because yeah, it is great music and definitely amazing that he's just not just like slapped a like copyright and like every Minecraft Let's Play in history making him money. Like, he could have done that and he didn't, and that's amazing, so buy his music. But Microsoft wanted this a bit different and is to blame here 100%. This is Microsoft. They basically wanted the right to the music, or at least wanted the rights holders of the music to be maybe friendly brands or companies. And so Lino Wayne's Pigstep basically just was copyright, and any video that played it in it, even if it was just a Minecraft Let's Play, got copyright claimed, and then people couldn't make money from literally their creative content often. Now, this situation, I believe, is fixed now, but yeah, there were definitely a few hundreds or maybe thousands or hundreds of thousands of monies being given to maybe some label. Like, I wouldn't think that Lino Wayne saw all too much of that money that was taken from content creators here just for having 5 seconds of Pigstep in their video. So yeah, just as they kind of get the game making together, Microsoft comes in and ruins another part, and the communication about the whole thing being basically copyright and you not being able to use it, even though Minecraft in-game music has been free to use for ages. Yeah, there was just mostly radio silence about this, while they figured out in the back that, hey, YouTube and copyright system algorithms don't claim this song when in Let's Play. Yeah, that took some time, and they were too silent about it, really, for my liking. Also, the smithing table got its only, since that version, really sensible Plan B use of making you netherite armor, which obviously in 1.14 that couldn't have been the Plan B. So I guess after 1.14 they literally didn't know what to do, and 1.16 was like, oh hey, this new material, this better armor, oh, smithing table, yep. So that's nice. However, at this point we are still waiting for the fletching table. And I want to give a small side note here about the fletching table. It could be really easy. even a simple functionality like making better or more potion arrows from one dragon's breath, or better firework rockets, or something along those lines, would really be enough. Like, we don't need an amazing aeroplane here. This could be a really simple thing of just, hey, you can make more potion-tipped arrows with one dragon's breath with it. You can make a firework rocket that goes beyond your wildest dreams. And that's it. Because especially now that it's mostly used as a speed-running emerald generator table, it has its use for the villagers anyway. So they could have just, in 1.16, given it a small use like potion arrows and slightly better fireworks, done. And would have never had to think about it again. But well, they didn't. So now comes 1.17, the next disaster, and we're just going to add to this list in a moment. Now, this is the currently underway new Mojang problem arc, as I'm going to call it. With extreme overpromises, with much more than just concept art, and not delivering pretty much any of it in the update that they promise it in. That's the thing that's still going. So what do we have in 1.17? Or rather, what are we now waiting for? After 1.17's release, we are now still waiting for their fletching table, their world generation height improvement, their new biomes, the actual caves and cliffs, the bundles, the archaeology, the deep dark, the skulk and the warden, and some blocks to be later found in the caves that in a usable quantity, like the dripstone and the moss being able to be found in like dungeon chests in really low percentages. It's like, yeah, in 1.17 you didn't want to build with moss, and I think you could get dripstone, but you didn't want to build with dripstone either. Like, it's yeah, that was not really amazing. So basically just 1.17 just brought what exactly? Yeah, looking at this list, apparently nothing. Okay, so then 1.18 delivered the most impressive part of the update. Thank you very much, Henrik, for that, because in the public eye, that's the only person that was really seeing, first of all, getting Mojang on a agile kind of way, which clearly, if you look at between 1.13 and 1.17, they were or at least like 1.16, they were a hot mess. And then came Henrik, and he did not only code some of the world changes, but yeah, also coached some agileness, I believe, which definitely helped, got 1.18 to where it was now. But let's have a look at our list of what we are still missing from past promises that went beyond just concept art, which were literally some of them implemented into the game in snapshots already, some of which were not, but yeah. We are still waiting for the fletching table, bundles, archaeology, deep dark, skulk and warden. Alright, scrolling down the page, now we have 1.19 has just come out from recording this video 4 days ago. I have played it for about 2 half days, so 1 full day. Have already found one issue that I'm gonna say right at the end. But okay, here they promised even more at the next Minecon Live. And again, they didn't even keep half of these promises. But the conceptually bigger part is that the reworked biomes and the ambience that is so much focused on in the Minecon. Like, if you watched that Minecon live, yeah, if you saw how much they pushed this whole of ambience, yeah, the wild update was going to be that. they didn't add any of this. 100% of what this whole thing hinged on is not there. It didn't hinge on the frogs. It didn't hinge on Caves and Cliffs Part 3. It didn't hinge on any of that. It hinged on new promises. Once again, discounting the frogs, but it hinged on new promises. And they didn't give us any of those. And that is one of the problems here. That Mojang must understand that we have that. And then they pretty much just, once again with the communication here being awful, just shrugged it off with, and I have intentionally written this in my script in mocking case, because it really feels like it. I even missed a capital M there. Biome was only concept art, not commitment. And some fireflies are poisonous to frogs. And the worst thing is, the poor woman in the video, where they basically said the thing with the concept art, sadly, she made the communication seem quite what I would call, because I definitely know something about that, soulless. And it was definitely the most soulless communication to date from Mojang. I know that was just appearance, and I'm sorry for that person, but that's a huge red flag. That's really bad. That, whoever saw this video, saw the delivery of the person in the video, and said, yes, that can go up on our YouTube channel. Definitely has no clue about content production. I'm just gonna say that much as someone who has no clue about content production myself, but that's bad. That's really bad. And once again, just like with all the last updates so far, with maybe the exception of 1.16 and, can I say 1.17? Because that didn't seem rushed, that just was not finished, that was just split. It seemed like a rushed, if not the most rushed, dev cycle in a long time. Basically, they began with the snapshots, and we turned around 2 times. We're being mocked for concept art not being a commitment, and some fireflies being poisonous to frogs, and then there was already a pre-release. What? Sorry? Huh? That was far too fast. Now, I know, they are aiming for 2 updates a year, one round about summer, which the problem is, it's June. People are, well, depending on where in the world, I know America and Great Britain might be different here, but people are still in school, still at uni, says the person who just recently stopped for that term, but anyway, people don't yet have holiday. Yes, we have the Pfingst holiday. I don't know what it is called in English right now, which is why I had time to even play 1.19. But that's not that big of a holiday. I would have expected them to wait till July 4th. That'd be a nice date or something, like summer holiday in most places in the world. 4th of July generally being holiday in an important kind of market. Not the Tuesday after the holidays in June. What sort of release date is it? But apparently they wanted to get it out there, so they did that. Which is not great. But okay, let's have a small side note about the fireflies here. I assume they just didn't know how to code them. And I would love for one of the devs to maybe give a or falsification of that claim, but when they showed them off at Minecon Live, instantly the technical community started speculating whether they were going to be particles with a hitbox, so frogs could find them, or mobs that would cause a lot of mobcap problems. Instantly that went wild on Twitter as soon as this first video of these fireflies was out. Like, if you were following like Mumbo and Ilmango and Methods and so on, all of them were like, is it going to be particles with a hitbox or with a position information, or is it going to be mobs? And I guess Mojang didn't know either. Now in the video that it showed in Minecon Live, it's clearly just, I'd say, retextured particles with the place where the frog's tongue kind of lands in the like area of the particles, most of them just stopping to exist. That, I guess, was how they did that trick. But I guess, further than for show, they possibly didn't have any clue how to properly code them anyway. But instead of owning up to that and say, hey, we've bitten off more than we can chew, like literally with the fireflies, they just come with like, oh, some fireflies are poisonous to frogs. You know, frogs not eating fireflies, but also something about poisoning parrots with cookies and riding pigs or something. Yeah, nah, they would never put those things into the game. Never. They are so considerate about the environment and stuff. Come on. We chop off big-nosed people's heads in this game for fun. At least the soulless of us. So, yeah. That's a weak excuse. A really weak one. And that is just another problem on top of all of what I've just said. If you didn't catch it, go back to the beginning of the video. There was a lot of things that happened up until this point. And now let's again take out our famous list and continue it, because yes, we are now again missing new stuff. Now we are still waiting for the functionality of the sledging table. Yeah, it's not gonna come. We're still waiting for bundles, because apparently they don't know how to properly code them on Pocket Edition, like on phones, which suddenly they own up to not knowing it. Weird. We are, however, still also waiting for archaeology, for the added ambience, being the fireflies, and for the reworked biome or biomes. There could be more that we also didn't get. So yeah. So the problem is all of the above. And it just has finally made the barrel overflow onto the hot stone that really now broke the llama's lid, to misuse all sorts of sayings here. So this last really badly presented screw up just is literally at this point 6 years in the making, I'd say. Since I started playing this game, they've basically just added mistake and insult and lie and misdirected claims and overpromises on top of one another. If this update was just Caves and Cliffs Part 3, we finally made it, no one would have said anything. At that point, we would have been happy that this is done. But Mojang splits updates when it's not good to do so, and doesn't split them when they really should have. And that's what I was talking about in the beginning with like similar or inverse screw-ups. Like one update they didn't split, they had a lot of problems with it, which they fixed in a later update. But then a few updates later, they were like, yes, let's split this one, with basically having none of the features that were originally planned for the first update out, because, well, you didn't need to refactor the whole code this time. It's like, yeah. But I guess the problem here is deadlines, and they just shouldn't have them. So in the context of working smart, not hard, Mojang should have taken the time to work first, not later. Which I guess if they would have had a Henrik much earlier, that might have happened, but they really got him just 3 to 4 updates too late. Like, really, I'm just gonna say that. So, 1.13 should have been the technically better update. Current day 1.14, which would have then been 1.15, was a learning journey on how to bounce ideas of the community and properly implement a good result. Well, they should have just kept these learnings in their heads, and they sadly, seemingly didn't. 1.16, more of the same, and what it was in general, with less rights management problems thanks to the old Billy Fence Post co-op. And 1.17, well, less promises would have been a good way. And I think Izuma, in his video about this whole thing, check it out, card, description, all that, made a quite good point. The hype for the update would have come, like, much more with surprisingly big snapshots. Like back in the day, or like even during 1.13, when you had a snapshot and suddenly things looked and felt different and worked different and so on. If you have a big snapshot, the people that followed the development will instantaneously jump at that and show the rest of the community, and that will build so much more hype. You don't need to overpromise anything. If you just have a snapshot where suddenly we have 20 new blocks and there are suddenly huge mountains and a monster that instantly kills you, that will make your hype free of charge. While over-promising something, then basically giving out a terrible communication to the community, basically just mocking us for what we don't know. Yeah, a delayed game and all of that stuff. So, I will keep watching how this develops in the future, with otherwise 1.19 content coming soon, maybe on this channel. And yeah, we'll see where that goes. Maybe Mojang is now going to learn what is really bad. I mean, yeah, really just try to not pull a 1.13, try not to do a 1.17, and definitely don't top it all off with a 1.19. That's what they should learn. And 1.20 needs to be, absolutely has to be, at this point, another sort of 1.15, but as in a quality of life update. You add the fletching table with simple functionality, you add the bundles, and yeah, you definitely have someone who knows how they could code it on mobile. Archaeology I'm not too fussed about, but maybe. But definitely the ambience. The problem is, now that you've completely fallen flat on your face in 1.19 by promising the ambience and adding nothing of it, 1.20 or 1.21 literally needs to be we are now going to literally add ambience to all the biomes update. You've set yourself up for this, it's your fault, but now you definitely need to deliver on that one. Have fun. Thank you very much, and I try to be not too sarcastic here, not too much of a clone of methods, but I just can't help it. It's, yeah, great game design right there, great communication right there, all of that stuff. And let's hope it gets better, because we really like this game, and it would be sad to literally see it fail in the most spectacular way that they are currently setting it up to kind of go. Yeah, I hope they don't. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.